Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about this week's TV news because this is a weekly news video, and that pretty much sums it up. I always feel like I have to try and explain what the show is after I say that, but I feel like there's almost nothing more to explain on this one.
It's pretty self-explanatory.
Because the movie news has like sections, and it has the trailer section, and it has, you know, the horror section at the end. There's like more of a defined thing. Whereas with this one, it's just, no, we talk about the news, which will include whatever, and then at the end we'll pick our favourite episode of TV of the week. That's what's happening.
Yeah, it's a bit looser, this one, even by the news standards.
By the news standards, it's a bit more looser. But to be fair, the reason why the movie one's got so many sections is because there's so much goddamn movie news that it has to kind of be broken
And
up.
it's reliable that you can break it up into these segments every week.
Exactly. If we got consistently the same type of news every week, because I do roughly, you know, like,
Yeah, I mean, you do the stuff, and then you have the new shows, which is split into,
Yeah.
you know, all the cable and streaming and
you
the
know,
networks.
renewals, cancellation, and premiere dates typically at the start, and then you'll have any sort of updates on shows we already know about, or any sort of misc news, and then we get to the new comedies, then the new dramas, and that's kind of the format.
So there is a structure. It's just less interesting.
It's just less defined because it's a bit
Yeah.
more, yeah. Hey ho! I guess that's an exciting introduction to this week's news.
Yeah. The news had better be better than that.
It might be. We'll see. We'll see. But okay, so we do have a bunch of stuff. We'll see where this lands in terms of, because obviously we had a couple of quieter episodes. Last week was up to more of a reasonable amount. We'll see where this one lands.
To be fair, we kind of padded the last one though.
We did, which is why I'm saying we'll see where this one lands. I can't really judge it just on page count of news alone.
No, you can't. Not on this show.
I can't account for you stretching things out with your weird ginger interpretations and analysis of things.
Well, sometimes it happens. I'll just say something, and I won't think it'll be that strange, and you'll just stare at me.
Well, first up, this is something we don't actually watch, but I thought it was worth just mentioning quickly because I feel like with our audience and the type of shows they like, this is something they might be into. That is the Librarians on TNT, which has been cancelled.
Oh man, really?
Yep, after its fourth season. Have you watched any of this?
I've watched the whole first season. I loved it.
The whole first you said that as if you said, I've watched the whole thing except
No,
for this
no,
last season.
I watched the whole first season as it aired, and then I was like, and then I got busy because we got a bunch of other shows that year. When the second season came back, I was like, I'm setting this aside for a nice binge.
Yeah, well, the season finale I think is this coming week, or it just aired last week, whenever it was, but it was around. It hadn't aired when this news had went up. Dean Devlin, who's the producer, is going to try and shop it around to see if we can get it continued elsewhere. But yeah, so fourth season. Do you know who's on that show, Connor?
Remind me.
Lindsay from Angel, which was the spin-off of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah. Forgot about him.
Christian Kane, I think he's
Yeah,
the actor's name.
I was like, I'm thinking of the main cast. I was like, obviously when I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, obviously it's that guy. But
I was really hoping you'd have brought him up because I wanted you to be the reason why I got to the Buffy reference.
I'll be honest, I forgot. It's been a few years.
Hey ho, but hey, so that's been cancelled. So apologies to the fans of the Librarians, but maybe you'll get a continuation elsewhere. I wouldn't hold your breath because they always say that, and then only
Rarely happens. Yeah. It's a fun show though.
So here's something that was unexpected because it was supposed to be a limited series. The Sinner from USA Network has been renewed for season 2.
What is it with this thing where they keep telling us they're limited series and then they're not?
This one's an interesting one though because obviously Big Little Lies and HBO, it sounds like just all the cast are coming back. It's just, oh no, we're just doing a season 2. This one's a little bit different in that they're going to treat it slightly anthology style. Bill Pullman's character's coming back as a detective, but he's going to have a different case.
Right, okay.
So that's the premise for this going forward. It was originally meant to be a miniseries, 6 episodes. Jessica Biel's not back. She's still producing it, but obviously her character story wrapped up, presumably, at the end of the first season.
Whatever happened.
Yeah. So Detective Ambrose, he will travel to his hometown in upstate New York, where he will investigate the murder of 2 people by their 11-year-old son. So he's got another gritty case
the
to
cynic
take on.
Because the cynic in me there is, if you got the big thing when the cinema was aired, was all the headlines about how shocking and gruesome it was for TV, and this sounds to me it's like, oh, they're going for that shock factor again. But maybe I'm wrong. But just the cynic in me, when you say that as your one thing.
From a cynical point of view, I can see what you're saying. Honestly, though, the whole premise of the Sinner in the first place was that this woman murders someone on a beach for seemingly no reason. Why did she do it? This was random as shit. From that perspective, it makes sense to me that the second season would also have a what the hell crime, like an 11-year-old kid murders his parents. Like I actually get it. Just in a plot, this is what the show is that we have murders that are just completely random and out of nowhere, and like holy shit, why did that just happen? And then we explore the psychology behind it as we go. So I'll defend it a bit because I think it fits into what the premise of the first show was.
I agree. I'm just saying, I mean, especially when it was a limited series, it kind of feels like they saw the ratings and went, hey. Let's chuck them again. Let's get them again.
It did well for them. I mean, obviously, we weren't super into it. We gave up after the second episode because I mean it was okay, but we didn't love it. We weren't really into it. But the first episode's still ticking up. Like people still come and watch a review of that.
yeah, they do consistently
on a relatively regular basis. So clearly, it's got a following, which always upsets me. I hate when a show gets a following that we dropped and then people keep coming to our reviews because I'm like, that's just people who are going to be upset with us and disappointed. Like there's nothing happy for them to find when they come to our reviews of something we dropped already. That's it's upsetting. But hey, so season 2 is coming, and they got Bill Pullman back, and he's a good actor, so that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, so next up, this is something we already knew part of because we had a few weeks ago. We had the stealth renewal of Travelers, which was a thing. Some sites reported it was renewed already. However, we got new news this week that it had been renewed, and it was like, okay, we kind of knew that. However, there was a new bit of information to go along with this. And clearly, the first bit of news that went out was probably premature / maybe leaked. Maybe it wasn't supposed to actually go out, and that's why it was kind of quiet. Because the news is that it's officially renewed for Season 3, but it is now 100% a Netflix original. Netflix are the ones making Season 3, and it will go out on Netflix for everyone at the same time. Which means for most people there's no difference. People in Canada, however, you have to wait and watch it on Netflix.
Join everyone else.
The fun part is, though, we all get to experience it at the same time. So that's the good news. And I'm glad. I really like this is like Netflix showing like they consider this does well for us for whatever they expect from it, and people like it.
I do wonder if this was the Canadian network that it was on was kind of going to drop it. They were like, yeah, okay, we're going to drop this. We don't need it. It's not doing great numbers for us. But they were kind of just having the Netflix deal. That was it. And then Netflix was like, hey, we'll take it.
Yeah, but Netflix obviously worldwide clearly are happy with how it's performing, and we're glad because we really like that show. And
as long as this doesn't mean it gets pushed back in terms of the release date, because it's been consistent.
It might. They started shooting this week though, so probably not.
Okay then.
Because that was actually with the announcement. Eric McCormick did like a tweet, like he's like, "Hey, I'm in Vancouver because we're shooting today." So at least they're on schedule production wise. Honestly, if it does get pushed a little, see if this is the price of keeping the show going, is that every year it goes back a little bit. I'm okay with that.
I'm alright with it too. Overall, in general, it's just it'll be a slight disappointment. I'm used to the regularity of it now, I guess.
But I'd rather take the bump and keep the show than not have the show.
Obviously. So obviously, I'm just pointing out the downsides where they might be, even though they're really quite small in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, of course. So we'll move on. Speaking of Netflix, I mean, I've made a habit of telling you about every bit of casting for Sabrina. So
oh god, yes.
So why not?
There's more.
Let's just throw in another couple. Well, you remember our boyfriend from the show, Harvey Kinkle?
Sure.
Yeah, well, they've cast a Harvey Kinkle. Rosh Lynch, who was in My Friend Dahmer, is going to play Kinkle. The human boyfriend of Sabrina, described as the Prince Charming of a dark fairy tale, Harvey is the son of a coal miner, a dreamboat, and a dreamer, completely unaware of the dark forces conspiring to keep him and Sabrina apart. So he's not got the love interest, although it feels like he's probably going to be a slightly different character compared to the original show. He's a bit more of a doofus in the original show. I always remember the episode of the original show where he actually, they put a spell on him because he has to stay with Salem for whatever reason. So they put a spell. This is before he finds out about everything. He's still in the dark. We still have the secret identity going, but they put a spell on him so that he can know about Salem talking for the weekend, and then once the weekend's over, he'll forget it all. But during that weekend, they have many a debate. The one I remember being who would win a fight between the Terminator and the RoboCop. But
of course, you'd remember that.
Of course, that's what I remember. But there's something about a cat debating who would win a fight between RoboCop and the Terminator that just sticks out in my mind.
I can see why you're a sucker for cats. You're a sucker for Terminator and RoboCop. So
Hey.
it's all you.
Also, Tati Gabrielle is from the 100 is going to play Prudence, a student of the Academy of Unseen Arts and the de facto leader of a trio of witches known as the Weird Sisters. Beautiful and cunning, Prudence nurses a deep, personal, and possibly life-threatening grudge against Sabrina. So we've got our mean girls, basically. Is what I'm going to call them.
The school nemesis.
Yeah, the school nemesis, who is different from the show because the show, I think her name is Libby. I mean, admittedly, it's been a long time.
Yeah,
so,
I'm not going to comment because you might be right, you might be wrong. It's been years.
But there was the you know, the knockoff Cordelia character.
Of course, you put it into Buffy terms.
Oh, was she from the television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Do you have that tidbit this week?
Something about Buffy. Oh, there's a reason why I was sneaking them in before we got to Buffy itself, because I didn't want to just take the easy way out and just do it when we're talking about Buffy. What sort of charlatan do you think I am?
Well, no, this is the thing. You keep mentioning it. I'm like, I don't know if this is because you've got it or because you've skipped it for some reason, or if you're building to it.
It's not really news, but of course, if Buffy shows up in the news, I'm probably going to put it in and mention what they're talking about,
even if just for a joke.
Because it's not really. That's actually what's next. Funnily enough.
Oh, okay, that was a nice segue.
But it's not. Okay. It's not really news. It's just basically Fox have been like, yeah, like we'd love to reboot Buffy. It's like one of the biggest brand things we've got in TV. Like, we brought back X-Files, and obviously there's other things we might want to bring back. But easily the thing we're most excited about bringing back someday is Buffy. However, and this is the encouraging part, actually. Obviously I'm rolling my eyes at, but this is why you shouldn't do it, and blah blah blah. No Whedon, no sale.
Of course you are.
Right. However, what they actually said, which is very interesting, is it's the most ripe show for bringing back blah 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 blah. But so we frequently talk about it. And Joss Whedon is one of the greatest creators we've ever worked with. When Joss decides it's time, we'll do it. And until Joss decides it's time, it won't happen.
Yeah, it's if and when he says.
Which is very interesting, because I don't know if I guess it's an easy payday for him if one day he decides, oh yeah, I'll supervise a few scripts to start it off and you can go off and do your Buffy thing. But
there's reasons for it. I mean, one is, does he do it as some sort of pseudo sequel rather than a reboot directly?
That'd be the more exciting thing if it wasn't just, oh no, it's Buffy herself coming back. I mean, admittedly, maybe Sarah Michelle Gellar's career is not amazing right now, so maybe she would want to have like a mentoring role, and we could have Buffy herself. But
yeah,
here's the problem with making a sequel, though, is that the characters who are supposed to have not aged will have aged by 20+ years.
Yeah, I think those people can't really be in it.
Yeah, Angel and Spike can't be there because they've aged.
Yeah.
Unless you tell me they became human at some point between the shows,
or they get that fantastic CG de-aging stuff on hand
on a weekly TV show.
Oh yeah, like I said, it's unfeasible, but just on the off chance for the occasional guest appearance, not as a regular.
Okay, yeah, but even that's only really worked a couple of times. Sometimes it comes out looking really weird.
No, I agree. That's why I said the really good stuff. But
That's scary territory.
I think as well as that, though, obviously, originally it was this movie that was completely different, and then it became the TV. He's not entirely opposed to redoing the same idea.
Sure.
Of course, that was a case of, okay, let's make it better.
Yeah, because the movie wasn't good, and he wasn't fond of the movie, so that was a case of let's do it right. Whereas now it's not like, well, he already did it right, so what's the point now?
Right, but instead of let's do it right, it's can we do this any better? Can we do it for today?
Which is the thing, though. Does he have an interest in doing that?
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Does he care? Is he happy? Or just like, no, it's done. It's finished. It's a finished piece of work. Never has to be updated.
I can see the valid reason to do it as, hey, let's do this for now. Let's do this for today. Let's update it and to do it maybe better, as hard as that may be.
I mean, I don't like that line of thinking. I hate that let's do it for today's generation because, quite frankly, do something new that's for this generation. Don't just reboot or remake something from before. I will always champion that above bringing something back. However, if they announce... I mean, one of the other quotes actually from the executive was, if we announced a Buffy reboot, we wouldn't get out the building alive. That was the direct quote, because they know that everyone's going to, me included, be gunning for them. But, so here's the thing. if Whedon was involved with something, it's okay. So Buffy reboot or reimagining or the continuation, passing of the torch, any of these things, I'd be like, okay, I'd be excited. Of course, I'd be into it. Honestly, see the biggest thing, even if it wasn't that, even if it was just a sacrilege remake, the one exciting thing about it though, that honestly at this point I'm almost willing to let it exist for this reason, is some proper HD remasters of Buffy and Angel, because holy shit, they're still in SD. They need to be tinkered with. And when I say
they did that for HD thing right not so long ago. There was kind of shy.
There was a really weird conversion for a TV channel that put it in HD. They changed the aspect ratio, which do not do. I'm wanting Star Trek Next Generation treatment here, where no original aspect ratio, original intent, but just clean it up and remaster it and make it look pretty. Right, that's all I want. That's all I goddamn want. Some of the later seasons, of course, will be easier than others because they were,
shot for both.
Well, they weren't shot for both. They were shot in 35mm film, which obviously, like most movies, translates quite nicely to HD. Season 1 and 2 are always going to look a bit ropey, but they could look much better.
I was referring to the aspect ratios.
They weren't shot for both. No, that's incorrect.
Are they not?
Angel was a 16:9 show, season 2 onwards. Buffy was always intended to be 4:3. There are 16:9 versions of 4 through 7, but Joss Whedon's actively said they're not the intent.
All right, fair. I thought those were they were filmed not like, okay, obviously the 4:3 is the intent, but they were at least shot aware of the possibility, whereas some of them weren't. Right?
Given that you can see some things you're not supposed to at the edge of the frame, I would say no.
Ah, fair enough.
It's not as bad as, say, when they try to convert Friends.
Oh, yeah.
But that said, I mean, the thing is, though, with a sitcom, it's not like a cinematic show. I'll happily just watch the HD 16:9 versions. I don't really care. It's a sitcom with, mid shots.
You want jokes.
Yeah. With Buffy, of course, it's actually a show that's directed properly and has.
Most of the time.
Yeah. So I'd love some, and obviously that'd be something to inspire. If it was if it was back in the consciousness again, they'd maybe make the effort to do it. But hey, so no, that is the correct response. If Joss Whedon wants to do it, we'll do it. If not, we won't. That is the exact response I want to hear.
You can't be mad at that, can you?
That is exactly what I want to hear. And if Joss has a stroke of, an idea that he wants to do, and he's like, oh hey, because here's the thing, right now, because he's doing the odd movie, I get very little Whedon in my entertainment right now, because it's a movie every few years, if that. There was a time when he had 3 TV shows on the air at the same time. I miss those days.
Yeah.
So, if he wants to do a TV show again, I'm all for it. That said, I don't necessarily want him to hamper his creativity by just sticking to the one thing that he's known for from years ago. So,
which is why I think even if it does happen, I think he'll only be involved at a tangential level, early inception.
Here's what I wonder though, because this worked out very well. Is Shield, right? He kind of kicked it off, but his brother and sister-in-law are the ones who run it, and that's become a very great show. I would not be opposed to him kicking off a Buffy kind of requel, if you will, and giving it to them
again. You mean when Shield inevitably gets cancelled this year or next,
or ends? I think it cancels a bit.
Well, all right, fine, or ends this year or next, probably. Yeah, okay. Let's move on to Buffy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that. They've shown that they can keep the style of humour that Whedon's known for, but and handle it well.
They can do the good, the family dynamic of
the family dynamic, yes, of the Scooby Gang, and they've shown they can do really good action as well. That that some of the action scenes in that have been very good, arguably much better than Buffy ever had. So
I think undoubtedly better than Buffy ever had. No,
that's fair.
It comes with the time.
That's fair, yeah. Buffy had a lot of ropey stunt double sort of scenes occasionally.
Yeah, it was perfectly fine for when it was, but now it would stick out.
So I think there's and honestly, that's maybe the biggest. If you're going to give me reasons why, what would improve, and again, honestly, new ideas over reboots every single time. But if you're going to be devil's advocate, and what would improve, the action and the stylized elements of the show would be, if you kept the rating the same, but you had better action, better stylized elements, better cinematography. Those were the things that TV does better now and could potentially be much better, even on a network.
Absolutely. I think that's why I say, if he looks at this and go, right, can we do this better? On some aspects, absolutely they could do it better now. Others is opinion, taste, it's just down to
and again, this is
how
purely
the end result.
This is purely something that technical aspects and budgets will allow for now. I don't think the writing has to change at all. The writing's...
I mean, there's iffy parts, don't get me wrong. So, it's not saying that no episode can be improved.
No, I'm not saying no. Obviously, there was bad episodes, but that's not what I'm saying.
I'm saying some of those bad episodes stick out worse than some bad episodes of, say, S.H.I.E.L.D.
Sure, but this is the thing, though. I don't want them to remake the show and redo the old plot lines. That's not what we're talking about. So this comparison is pointless. What are you doing?
I'm just, putting out all the options.
Well, that's not an option. Don't do that.
Just because you don't want it doesn't mean it's not an option.
It's not an option, goddammit. Hey, so, aye. Unless Joss says it's okay, you don't do it. Let's do that. I'm happy with this.
Someone go steal all his money.
Why, so he's desperate and has to do Buffy?
Exactly. Easy cash.
Hmm.
You look like you're considering it.
No, I'd rather do something new. Although something on TV would be nice though, just for the regular dose.
Yeah. Which is again, probably one of the biggest things against it. If it's going to be him directly running it, I can't see him jumping back to TV full time at this point.
I don't know. Maybe he likes TV better. I don't know. I could see it.
Maybe he does. I'm just, he spent so long away now.
I mean, because Avengers: Age of Ultron just about broke him. He just did a fixer-upper job in Justice League. I mean, I can't imagine that was creatively the most satisfying job in the world, coming in and fixing that mess.
No, okay. What's he got on the cards next? Any ideas?
Right there, we don't know. I don't think.
No. Okay, fair enough.
Nothing. Obviously, there was Batgirl, but that's fallen through. So,
maybe it fell through because he's secretly planning this Buffy reboot.
Oh dear. Just make Batgirl the Vampire Slayer. I'd be okay with that. Alright, let's move on though. So next, we can sit here and talk about Buffy all day, but
you definitely could.
Yeah, I just watched Some Assembly Required, Season 2, Episode 2, because I'll be doing the commentary for that sometime in the next few days. But hey, which is a Patreon exclusive. Go to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV if you want to check out some Buffy commentary tracks from me rambling on. There's nothing wrong with shilling, Connor. Nothing wrong.
So we leave the shilling till later.
Hey, if it's naturally going to fit with a story, I'll put it in with a story. Alright, so next up. So there's an Italian animated franchise called Winx Club. I don't know if you've heard of this. It's an Italian cartoon.
Winx with an X, right?
Yes, Winx with an X.
Yeah, I have.
Winx Club. I'd never heard of it, but apparently Netflix are now going to be bringing it to a live-action young adult series. They're going to be making this. They're adapting the franchise, which for the first time, the popular 6 fairies will turn into real teenagers learning to hone their powers while living in a magic boarding school. In 2016, Netflix globally and exclusively released 2 seasons of World of Winx, a spin-off from the successful Winx Club. So what is unclear actually though is if this is going to be English speaking or if this is, an Italian original to go with the animated series.
I'll be honest, I didn't even realise that was Italian. I'm vaguely familiar with it.
That's the thing with the cartoons though, is you can just revoice it quite easily without it being
exactly.
Noticeable. So I'm not sure what they're doing with that.
Depends on what their audience is like. I mean, because obviously they've got the data of who's watching that stuff on Netflix.
That's true.
If they're going, it's mostly English-speaking audiences, people are mostly watching it in English.
I'm actually leaning towards English-speaking because I feel like if it was Italian,
they'd probably specify.
Yeah, they'd specify that. I feel like because they've not, it'll probably be English-speaking first, and they're maybe going to try and make it more of a worldwide thing for everyone.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But, see. I mean, obviously I don't think it necessarily appeals to us, but I thought it was worth mentioning.
It's a notable thing.
You got your fairy show if you're into the fairies. So, next up, Apple has got another show.
Like this again.
Their first animated show, in fact. So they're really building a portfolio of different things that are happening. So they've given a 2-season straight-to-series order for Central Park, a musical comedy from the creator of Bob's Burgers, Lauren Bouchard.
I do like Bob's Burgers.
I've never seen it myself, but I know it's got its fans. So written by Bouchard, Josh Gad and Nora Smith, the series is described as telling the story of how a family of caretakers who live and work in Central Park end up saving the park and basically the world.
God damn it, Apple! Why do you keep doing this shit?
You're interested in this, aren't you?
I am. God damn it.
I'm not super into the musical part of it necessarily, but I can't deny I like the idea of a group of caretakers in Central Park ending up saving the world.
No, that's pretty good. And then, like I said, I really do like Bob's Burgers, so that brings some cred.
Well, there you go. Speaking of cred, remember how we were talking about how Alex Garland had a sci-fi project at FX?
Yes, I do.
Yes, well, it's called Devs, and it's got a pilot order now officially. So Garland wrote and will direct the pilot, which he'll executive produce with Ex Machina Annihilation collaborators DNA TV and Scott Rudin Productions. In Devs, a young computer engineer, Lily, investigates the secret of development division of her employer, a cutting-edge tech company based in San Francisco, which she believes is behind the disappearance of her boyfriend. So this one doesn't actually mention science fiction, but the original report did. And it sounds like it's going to be more Ex Machina sci-fi, because I can see the cutting-edge tech company being where the sci-fi...
Slightly further ahead than we're expecting.
Yes.
Typically, if something says cutting edge,
you
have something in your mind, so slightly further ahead than that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it'll be, okay, so sort of Black Mirror-esque tech at this company.
Yeah.
But they're up to something shady, because, her boyfriends went missing.
Because, let's be honest, though, any tech company that's like that, it's bound to be up to something shady.
Like the Umbrella Corporation from the hit video game Resident Evil.
Stop it. Stop making that a thing. It's not a thing.
Resident Evil's my favourite video game, so maybe
sorry, did you say hit video game series? I'm not sure all of them are so hit.
As a series as a whole, it's a hit.
I mean...
in the main series, there's more hits than misses.
There's a majority, but, I'm not sure it's still the hit series you think it is.
This wasn't supposed to be, deconstructed. It was just a joke like the Buffy one.
I know.
That's all.
But I just want to make sure this isn't a recurring thing. So let's cut this out now.
You fighting me so hard is what's guaranteeing this is a recurring thing. You realise that, right?
Yeah, it crossed my mind. But when it crossed my mind, it was too late.
So, this is coming from a deal that Garland made with FX Productions in July, which is like an overall sort of production to develop things for FX. So it's called Devs, and it's very, very vague right now as to what the sci-fi angle is, beyond us theorising about the cutting tech. But or the cutting edge tech, rather. The cutting tech.
Hey, it could be both.
So it's all saws and blades and laser beams and stuff to cut things with.
Look, if their cutting edge tech is some laser shit, I'm not opposed. Maybe that's how they killed the boyfriend.
As long as they don't freeze. Because lasers do not freeze.
Hey, if Alex Garland says they freeze, then they freeze.
Maybe inside the shimmer, but I'm not accepting it outside the shimmer. So obviously this is a big thing for us. We like him, we like his films. We just reviewed Annihilation this past week, so you can go check out the review of that on the channel. But
so some more natural shilling.
Some more natural shilling. Shilling the shimmer. So obviously we'll be checking this out when it happens. Assuming it gets a series order and actually airs and stuff, we will be definitely checking this out. But I expect it will. And hey, it's FX getting some more big programming to sort of establish themselves as, we can compete with things like HBO and
they're getting up there. Let's be real.
Yeah, so that's exciting. So moving on, next up, speaking of HBO actually, so HBO is reteaming with some people from behind Big Little Lies. So obviously that was a big hit for them. Nicole Kidman's involved, and she's actually going to be starring in this as well. So Nicole Kidman's involved in this. David E. Kelly is going to be writing this. It's a new limited series based on a book. Oh, it's limited right now. We'll see how well it does, and then maybe there'll be a season 2. I'm still expecting the night of season 2 to be a thing as well. I'm expecting that to be an announcement.
They kind of straight up said, maybe on that one though, didn't they?
Yeah. So they've ordered this. It's called The Undoing, and I confused myself for a second there because I've bolded the title of the book instead of the title of the show. So I just had to double check what I was saying there. It's called The Undoing, the show though. It's based on a book by Jean Hanf Kurlitz, It's called You Should Have Known. That was the name of the book. So Kidman's going to star. The Undoing centres on Grace Sachs, who is living the only life she ever wanted for herself. She's a successful therapist on the brink of publishing her first book, has a devoted husband and a young son who attends an elite private school in New York City. Weeks before his book is published, a chasm opens in her life. A violent death, a missing husband, and in the place of a man Grace thought she knew, only a chain of terrible revelations. Left behind in the wake of spreading a very public disaster, I was just like, what? I thought it was going to be a disease all of a sudden. I saw spreading and second guessed myself.
Your mind jumped to conclusions.
It did. Then I stumbled. So yeah, left behind in the wake of a spreading and very public disaster, and horrified by the ways in which she has failed to heed her own advice, Grace must dismantle one life and create another for her child and herself.
Okay, I mean, it doesn't necessarily grab me, but, you know, quality is everything.
Yeah, no, I think it's down to quality on this one. I feel like it does sound like a one-season book thing. It sounds like this was a book. It feels like that.
It does, but I just don't trust them anymore.
It becomes a question of what is the secrets, what is the violent incident. That's the parts that I kind of need to know before I'm excited. Because is this all just the first episode, and then it's about her trying to build a new life with her son? Or is it mostly the intrigue of figuring out what's going on and the violence and
yeah, whatnot? I could see either way at this point. Like, I just don't know what it is.
It's hard to tell, but hey, so that's the thing that's in development. Sticking with HBO, we have another pilot order for them. They've got Euphoria is the title of it, and it's based on an Israeli show. So yeah, so they described this as kids meets Trainspotting.
Okay.
Right. Described as a look at the brutality and pleasures of teen existence today, Euphoria follows a group of high school students as they attempt to cope through drugs, sex, and violence in an effort to make sense of an uncertain future. So that's the premise of the show.
Very vague, isn't it?
Does not excite me. Well, kids, if I remember correctly, that's that really extreme movie that there was a lot of like controversy at the time because of how it portrayed underage sex and stuff. And then Trainspotting, lots of heroin overdoses and whatnot, shenanigans. Honestly, comparing it to those two things does not really appeal to me all that much, and does not make me think this is something for me.
No, there's an audience for it, but
yeah,
I don't care. And that description, it's like it's very vague. It doesn't give me anything other than just, oh, here's a setting.
Yeah, I'm not super excited by this. It's not, again, what it's compared to Trainspotting, which I have seen. I've not seen Kids, but if I remember what it is correctly, I'm just not that excited by those kind of types of stories. But hey, it's a thing that's happening. So if you're interested in it, HBO is working on it. They've ordered a pilot.
Yep. All
right, next up. So we found out about this a while ago. This was Reese Witherspoon's and Kerry Washington's limited series called Little Fires Everywhere. Do you remember talking about this? It was in development.
Yes.
There was no network though. Now we have a home for it. It's got a straight to series order at Hulu. So that's where it's going.
Okay.
So just to remind you, the series is based on the novel of the same name. The book traces the fallout in a suburban Ohio community when a single mother and her daughter move into the town and custody battle erupts over a Chinese-American baby. So that's the premise. This was maybe 3 weeks ago, I think we brought this up.
Yeah, I stand by. I'm not super interested in it.
Yeah, it's an 8-episode order for the record. That's how long it'll be. So it's a limited series. Again, until they decide it's done so well that they'll order a second season.
Well, I mean, Hulu haven't done that yet.
That's true. Hulu have not committed that.
And they'll get this pumped out in just over a month, right? Because they'll throw out 3 on the first day.
That is true. That is their typical MO. I guess it's just HBO we're making fun of then for. Well, no, that's not true because USA Network, the Sinner.
Yeah. HBO definitely started it. They're the biggest culprit, and honestly, I think USA saw HBO do it and get away with it. Like, no one really commented on it, and they were like, "Hey,
you say get away with
went
it.
In on that.
You say get away with it as if it's actually a bad thing."
I know.
It's not.
When I say get away with it, more like I think before HBO started doing this in the last few months, when someone said this is a limited series, that was it. It stayed a limited series. No one tried to do it again.
Yeah, it's not really a big deal if something that was limited becomes an anthology show.
It's not.
Anyway, so moving on. Electus is partnering with songwriter, producer, and artist Kenny Babyface Edmonds for a scripted music series that takes viewers behind the scenes of the booming New York City music scene in the 1990s. No title as of yet. The Untitled serialized hour-long dramedy is developed by and based on the lives of award-winning songwriter and record producer Damon Sharp, who has worked with such artists as Jennifer Lopez, Ariana Grande, Pitbull, Nelly, and more, and actress and former Warner Brothers Rough Nation Records recording artist and producer Stacey Asensio Stupfin, if I'm saying that last name right. So the pair met in New York City in the 1990s when they were both aspiring pop stars. The potential series focuses on a 20-something aspiring singer-songwriter who works a day job at a major music cable network. Despite a lack of support of her artistic dreams from friends and family, she harnesses the undeniable talent and natural business savvy to try and make a name for herself in the music industry, at a time when the digital revolution began to change everything. The series will guide audiences through the nostalgic musical era, its eccentric personalities and larger-than-life icons, with plenty of comedic bumps along the way. Yeah, the bit I sort of snickered at there was where it mentioned, I think, it wasn't nostalgic, was it?
Maybe it was. I kind of thought, I was like, nostalgic?
Yeah,
90s
it was
music, really?
yeah, because it was like nostalgic, and I'm like, really? Don't get me wrong. I think there's stuff that we're all nostalgic about from the 90s because that's when we grew up, and like, okay, so we're nostalgic about it. I don't know if the music scene as a whole, though.
I'm fascinated by the industry at that time period. I think, they talk about the opening of the digital revolution. I think there's fascinating things in the industry.
Sure,
at the
yeah,
time.
that's an interesting thing to explore.
Nostalgic is not necessarily the word I would have used.
I feel nostalgia when someone mentions Napster, but not necessarily. I don't think like the existence of it itself is nostalgic. But yeah,
no, I agree.
That'll be a joke in an episode. Just wait to see it. Someone will be like, "Oh, have you heard of this new Napster thing?"
And I'm like, it's fine. It'll blow over.
They always fight against new formats. They obviously should fight against that because that was piracy. But I mean, they always fight against like new formats. Like, how long did it take before they started? Like, okay, let's just start releasing things on, iTunes or whatever. Take your pick.
Longer than it should have, and Apple got in a lot of trouble when they did because of their name. Because obviously they clashed with the famous record label at that point, which because originally they were sued and they were like, it's fine as long as you don't get into music, when they were all just computers. And then
flash forward to 30, 40 years later, and they're doing iPods and
yeah, it got them into a bit of hot water. Yeah,
that's fair. So hey, as I said, it's a relatively interesting thing to explore. There's not a whole lot of feel for what the show. I mean, it says it's a dramedy, so obviously it'll be sort of lighter toned.
Yeah, but hour-long dramedy is something that you don't see that often, I feel.
It could be fun. I can see if it has the energy and it has likable characters. I think it could be something that could be a fun setting to explore. Something.
I'm definitely down for checking this out when that finally happens.
But hey, no network or anything like that yet, so we'll find out maybe more in the coming months.
Give it another year and a half.
So, last up then in the news this week. So, not a super short episode, but not a meaty one either. But hey, so Bravo Media has put in development The Fifth Beatle, which is based on a comic book. Limited event series this is, so again, limited, we'll see how that works out. But it's based on Tony Award-winning producer Vivek J. Tiwari, his critical praise best-selling graphic novel The Fifth Beatle, The Brian Epstein Story. I assume you being a music buff, you'll know who Brian Epstein is off the top of your head.
If I recall, I think it's the producer.
Yeah, the Beatles, yeah.
Yeah.
The book published by Dark Horse Comics in 2013 with art by Andrew C. Robinson and Kellel Baker. Props for them to mention the artist in this news article. I feel like a lot of these articles about, this is based on a comic book, don't often mention who the artists were, so I appreciate that. Explores the complicated personal lives of legendary Beatles manager Brian Epstein.
There you go.
So, not quite the producer, but hey.
I'm mixing up. It's been a long time since I did Beatles history.
I like how you probably did that in a class as a subject.
I had like a 3-week course on Beatles history at one point, but not my favourite era. Important, but it's there.
Yeah, so he helped catapult the Fab Four to international stardom, is how they're phrasing it. But hey, it could be interesting if he's instrumental, no pun intended, to getting them the success.
No. I do remember this, the comic coming out, and it was been on my radar, but never checked it out for some reason.
Yeah. That's an interesting. That's an interesting thing that had a comic book first.
It is, isn't it?
Because usually, if that sort of story, I'd expect to be a novel or maybe just a straight up biography first, and
Yeah.
then a movie or a TV show gets made out of it. But this is kind of funny that it went to a comic book, which I assume means it's got a bit more style to it because it was very visual.
Yeah, one would imagine, yeah.
But hey, so yeah, the fifth Beatle, that's in development from Bravo Media, also Universal Kill Productions and Sonar Entertainment. So it wouldn't surprise me if this ends up either on USA or somewhere else that Universal's got a hand in.
Yeah. I can see this sort of thing on USA.
Yeah, but there you go. That's the news. That's this week's TV news.
Hmm.
So
Less than I expected.
yeah, it's just that time of year. We're between the pilot season and the upfronts. Once the upfronts hit, I think we start getting meaty again.
We get back into the swing of things because that's
Yeah.
it. They're all looking for next year then.
Yep, exactly. Oh look, I'm wearing more clothes than I was a second ago if you're watching the video, because we already recorded the movie news and then Connor said, hey, I thought of something I wanted to say in the TV news, can we go back and then you can have more work later and edit it in?
Yeah.
What is this exciting, like, must-hear news that is going to be the linchpin of this entire episode, Connor? I'm looking forward to this.
Look, something I saw an article on and I thought was worth a short discussion. You're going to hate this now just because I'm making you do work, no matter how interesting this might be.
I will judge it fairly. What is it?
So this is about Amazon, and it's a two-part story. The first part is the potential cost of their Lord of the Rings series.
Okay.
Did you see this?
No, I'm going to assume like 100 million a season.
More. They're saying for the first two seasons, there's a report that's come out from Reuters that says potentially as much as 500 million for the two seasons.
250 a season, oh baby.
Which, just for perspective, the original trilogy, according to Box Office Mojo, cost 281 million.
Yeah, that was a weird example because they kind of made that as one big movie.
Yeah, but
yeah,
that's crazy. Like how much that costs.
Okay, so that's part one.
That's a hell of a budget, right?
Oh yeah, it's a big budget TV. Yeah.
Yeah. Now the other part is they were talking about how Amazon determines a show's success, because even compared to other streaming services, they're a little bit more flexible because people might not pay for the service just for their thing because they might sign up for Prime in general.
Oh sure, yeah.
They actually determine the success or failure, and they measure on someone's first stream. It's what new shows does the Prime subscriber first watch when they sign up. That is the most important thing to Amazon.
That kind of sucks because I can't do that.
No, I know, which is why I wanted to mention this, because they mentioned some examples. The first seasons of Man in the High Castle and Grand Tour have done the best. Man in the High Castle season one cost 72 million to produce, and then drew in an audience apparently of 1.15 million new members for their first stream.
But here's the thing, though. That's because there was hardly anything else on Amazon at the time. That had to be that what they watched first.
Right, exactly. And the problem is, this doesn't account for anyone who renews their subscription. Right? Because I've renewed my subscription based on the fact that, oh, hey, they've got stuff coming up I want to watch, so I'll keep my subscription.
I have to imagine they're saying this, but what they really mean is that's like a big factor. But I imagine it's like, okay, 5 million watched X thing. How many new people watched X thing as their first thing? I have to imagine both numbers matter.
They have to matter on some level, but to them, apparently, the most important thing is how many people are signing up because of this show. How many people is this bringing in?
Interesting. I mean, that could. I mean, what about season 2s of things? Though, what if someone signs up for season 1, they just stick around, like they keep their subscription till season 2 happens, and then now they're not counting as.
Well, I think we can actually talk about that because they've given us some numbers for the Man in the High Castle both seasons here.
Okay.
So season 1 cost 72 million, drew in an audience of 1.15 million. So they worked that out. That costs around $63 per subscriber, which they consider as pretty good. And then the second season, it cost 107 million to make, And so that, and then with the amount that drew in, it was only 800. It cost 829 per subscriber. So that's a significant depreciation of new customers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay if they're judging it on that. How sustainable is that show then?
That still doesn't account for, though, the fact that if all these people stick around, how can you not include them as part of the success for season 2 of something?
No, I agree.
Because they're sticking around to stay for other things. Like, I don't know.
No, I agree. It's kind of baffling if that is truly the primary factor.
Obviously, it's a big factor, but like, especially not counting if someone like leaves and comes back. Like, that's bizarre.
It is. It is truly.
Because if anything, you could say, oh no, if all these people left and came back for the second season of something, they clearly only care about that show.
Yeah, so that's a clearly big defining metric at that point.
So it's weird not to include that as success. Okay, so we got all this money back again once we started putting season 2 out. I don't know. It's weird.
Maybe that's the reason to give shows a season 2, even and see what the retention rate is on that sense.
Yeah, no, that makes some sense.
It's why I wanted to actually bring this up and discuss this, because it was kind of a crazy report that.
Honestly, I think this report isn't full. I think they're being very tight-lipped as to their actual scope. I think this is mostly bullshit. I think it's true they probably care about this the most, but I think people who'll even come back is a factor. I think people who just stick around all the time is a factor. I think all of these, and who's watching things consistently is a factor. I think these are all factors, and I feel like sure, they might weigh one more than the other. One might be more exciting than the others, but they can't, like, if they get the exact if all the same people leave and come back for the season 2 of the show, but it did so well in the first place that it's still a really big number. I don't see how they can be that disappointed with that.
No, I agree.
So, no, this is all stupid.
No, that's it.
What? I'm just annoyed. Why did you bring me? I thought I was done for the night, and then you're like, oh, I've got another thing. And then we'll sat here for another 8 minutes talking about this stupid thing that makes no sense.
It was making the rounds. I thought it was interesting to discuss.
God damn it, you're the worst. Cut back to original recorded content. My hoodie will be off in a second. All that leaves us to do is pick our favourite episode of TV of the week. We actually have a few things to pick from this week, because S.H.I.E.L.D., of course, is on. It had its 100th episode this week. We also had the return of Timeless, which we forgot to warn you about last week, because we actually didn't know last week, because we'd forgotten that it was coming back in the last week. So Timeless is back. So episode 1 of season 2 was this week, and of course the season finale of Channel Zero was this week, which we were not very fond of. We didn't like this season very much, and we're not... and that seems very 50-50. It feels like... We literally half of our comments seem to hate us for our opinion on it, and the other half seem to agree with us. Very divisive season, which is very interesting, because some people think it's easily the best season, and some of us think it's easily the worst season of the show. But hey ho. But so that obviously spoils that we're not picking that episode as our favourite of the week. But so I guess between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Timeless. Which is unfair to Timeless, because it's S.H.I.E.L.D.'s 100th episode. It was kind of a big episode.
Yeah, I feel bad, because Timeless did have a very good return.
Yeah, it was a solid enough opener, but S.H.I.E.L.D. had its 100th. It was very emotional. You know, it was making me tear up here or there. It kind of encapsulated back to the original ideas of the show. That hit a lot of nostalgia, because it was like, here, remember these things from season 1, and so S.H.I.E.L.D.'s the easy answer this week, I think. But
it is. I mean, we should mention we've been doing more Jessica Jones. We did another 4 episodes since the last.
Yeah, the episode 5 review just went up. We're working through that. We're not loving it. It's kind of okay. There's a lot of things that we're complaining about, which hopefully we're making somewhat entertaining. It's not just whiny, but that's kind of.
Yeah, it's kind of just good enough that I can see us getting through it and finishing it off.
Yeah, no, I think we'll finish it, because there's not a whole lot of other TV on this point. But
so the thing is, if this was next month.
Oh yeah,
it might be a different story.
That is absolutely true. So obviously there'll be more Jessica Jones throughout the next week. Probably another 4 or 5 of those over the week, maybe even 6 if we can somehow scrape through them. But coming this week though, we have the premiere of Krypton is coming.
Long awaited.
Yeah, much like Black Lightning, we will do the first episode on its own as an individual review, so we can put it up out in the channel. But then it will also be edited into our weekly DC TV podcast, Television from the Multiverse, and then episode 2 onwards will just be part of that show with your Flash, your Supergirl, your Legends of Tomorrow, all those shows. It'll just be with them in that show. But the first episode will be on its own as well as a sort of pilot review.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So obviously it's a very interesting show. It's, you know, Krypton, Superman's grandfather. We've got time travel elements with Hawkwoman and Adam Strange coming back to try and save the future. It's Terminator on Krypton. I don't know what's going on with it, but
I have no idea what to expect. All I know is that Brainiac looked damn fantastic.
Yeah, the Brainiac image looked good, and apparently the production values are pretty good. So we'll see how it shapes up.
If nothing else, it should be nice to look at for 40 minutes.
Here's hoping. So you can look forward to that. But that's us for the next week TV wise, I think. And of course we're still working our way through classic Star Trek episodes. We're on season 3 of that now. I don't usually mention that at the end of this, but I figured since we'd started a new season, I'll bring it up.
You've been watching anything for yourself lately?
TV wise, I've got things that I keep meaning to start doing. Like I want to go back to iZombie because season 4 started. I want to finish season 3 and keep up with season 4. I want to check out a few other things. I want to finally get back to Person of Interest, and I keep putting that off.
I feel like you started that like 2 years ago.
It was about a year and a half ago now. I watched like 2.5 seasons over a couple of months. It was over the summer.
Yeah.
It was over the summer 2016. And
we're approaching summer.
The intention was to do the other half last summer, but then we actually had a surprisingly busy summer for TV, and I just didn't have the time. So, yeah, I should have really been doing it over the last couple of months, but I've been playing a lot of video games the last couple of months, which I hadn't been doing. Like, I went like almost a year with barely touching a video game, so really? I can't really feel bad for it, but I was kind of, sacrificing some other TV to do it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, I take it as something you want to talk about then, since you asked that question.
No, I just thought, well, this hasn't run quite as long as I expected. I mean,
Yeah, the fact that we're recording a 2-hour-plus movie news video after this is, no bearing on that.
I know, but I'm going to go get a snack between that, so it's fine.
Yeah, I'm hungry as well.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to read the descriptions more than normal because I'm just my stomach's
and when you've got a lot
grumbling.
of descriptions to read in the other news.
Exactly, so yeah, I'll be getting a snack between these.
I've been checking out some of the anime offerings on Netflix.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I checked out that Violet Evergarden, and it's downright gorgeous. Like
I love how you said that Violet Evergarden as if I was going to have ever heard of that show.
I say that because Netflix made a big deal of promoting it because it goes. I think it goes Netflix weekly, I believe.
Never heard of it.
It's basically this girl who was trained. She was just brought up as this weapon for this war, and then the war's ended, and she doesn't really know how to live a normal life. And the animation is just beautiful. Some fantastic music. I watched 2 episodes, and I can't wait to watch more.
It's kind of like being the chosen one, and then there's no more vampires to kill afterwards.
It's really not. She does have metallic arms though. Like her arms got something happened to them in the war, and now she's got like robot arms.
Oh. That's not like Buffy at all. I can't compare that to Buffy in any way.
You can't, no. I'm clearly just making a point of differentiating them.
But I stand by it's like she's the chosen one, but then there's nothing to be chosen for after a while.
Sure. Fine. If we must end this by tying it back to Buffy, so be it.
Oh dear. Okay, that is this week's TV news. Hopefully you've had some fun along the way. Let us know what you think about the news that popped up this week. Like, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mail_fudge for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv, and there'll be a link to that in the description. But you can do that over there, but otherwise that is us. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?